Hey y'all, it's Aubrey Shaw, and our latest Austin real estate market stats are just out, and I want you to be the first to know about them. So let's get into it. What's happening in Austin, Texas? We are very, very similar to last year's stats, last month's stats. Not a whole lot has changed. Mostly that's having to do with our interest rates, still in the 6% range. It's also seasonality. August is the month most people go back to school, not the month they want to be moving and buying and selling a home. So pretty similar. And in general in Austin, of course, real estate is hyper local. There are certain areas that are the exception. There are certain homes that are the exception. But in general, sales this year are down when we compare them to 2023. That's number of sales, and that's the volume of dollars in real estate transactions. That's down about 10% this year when we compare it to last year. So fewer homes are moving, but new homes are the exception to that. Brand new homes are doing 10% better than they were last year. And that is because they've been able to solve the problem of the higher interest rates for buyers. They can buy up a bunch of money at the beginning of the year and dole that out on their properties, offering people in the 5%, sometimes even 4% interest range. So that gets those payments down to where they need to be for the buyers. They are also offering a lot of cash so that their money that the buyer has to come to the table with is very little, or just their down payment. So because new homes have solved that problem for buyers, they're doing better. They're selling more, and they have been pretty much since 2022 and on. Our average and median prices, they're pretty stable. They've been stable for about a year and a half now. We have gone back and forth between $515,000 was our average price in September of 2023. Now $516,000 is our average price in September of 2024. There's been some movement, but when we just line it up, it's across the board. So pretty much right at 0% appreciation this year so far for Austin, but our prices aren't falling. Our prices aren't falling because in a lot of cases, sellers have small mortgage amounts on their homes and they have a killer interest rate. And so if they can't get what they perceive to be the value of that property, then they do have the option to just wait and rent it out until they can get to that value. And so many sellers have decided to do that. And we do have now more renters in Austin than we do owners. So we're a 57% rented city, and it's for this reason. We are sitting at about 4.9 months of inventory. That's the most inventory we've had in many, many years. So there are lots of choices for buyers. With these rates coming down, I think that the demand is going to go up. There are a lot of pent-up buyers who they still got married, but they decided not to buy a house yet. They had that baby, but they decided not to buy that house yet. There's a lot of pent-up demand that I think will come off of sitting on the fence once the interest rates fall. And there's a lot of optimism right now around spring of 2025 because we feel like we're coming to this perfect storm of a market where we're going to actually see some more demand for our Austin market. And that is when the election year is over, first of all. But the seasonality will be right in the spring, starting in February of 2025. We're expecting our interest rates to be down at that time, probably in the 5% range we're hearing. And that is perceptively what consumers want to see, is 5% or below, to make them feel like they're getting a good interest rate when they look back at where the rates have been in the last 5 years or so. We're all really hopeful for a normal market again, one that is appreciating. Normally, Austin appreciates 4 to 6% year over year historically for decades and decades and decades. So we are in the middle of a little bit more of an upset year. It has not normalized yet, but it has stabilized. So what does this mean? If you are a buyer, if these interest rates do go down, this is the calm before the storm. This is when sellers are the most negotiable, when demand is the lowest. If they're serious about selling, they will work with a buyer, maybe more than they initially say they even will. So right now is, I think, one of the most perfect times to be a buyer, because you're right in front of what we think is going to be a lot of demand. Also, as we get into the winter months, a lot of sellers are probably going to be taking their properties off the market. They don't want to be listed during Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. There's not a whole lot of buyers that want to be shopping for houses during Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. So demand typically goes down during those months, and there are a number of listings also come down during those months. This year, we have had about 30% of the listings that have gone on market come off as a withdrawn or an expired. And that means they didn't sell. 30% of the properties that were listed did not sell this year. You can blame it on the stubbornness of the seller, or they decided to, rent, or maybe they were priced at a price that, just isn't current market value. Whatever the reason, 30% of properties did not sell and they came off, and a lot of them moved to the rental market. So our rental market has a lot of options right now in general for Austin, and we are seeing some of those rental prices come down to compete and define the renters. So this is where we are, next spring, very optimistic, and right now is a very good time for buyers. Sellers, again, this is the calm before the storm. So depending on what you're wanting to do, it's possible that we could have some good months in this Q4 time, probably post-election. If you're ready to, price it right and have it looking great and you need to sell, we can always sell a property. It's more about, can we sell it for a price and within a timeline that you're okay with? So it's definitely worth having a discussion, especially if you've lived in your home prior to 2020. Definitely worth having a discussion about selling and timing of that. Always feel free to call me. I'm always here for you guys. I'm Aubrey Shaw with Hill Country One Realty. Y'all have a great day.